So I know that you performed at the Department of Justice.
Yes.
Right? How did that come about? And what was that like? Can't be your normal audience, right?
No, it was not. So that was, it was actually interesting. It really started off with me receiving an email from the Department of Justice. And when I first clicked on it, I thought it was one of those Nigeria emails where people are like, yes, send us money, we have your family hostage. That's really what I thought it was, because that was the big scam going on at that time. And then as I read further, it started referencing Carnatic music, it started referencing me as a Carnatic musician. I was like, wow, the Nigerian scammers have really done their research to target me, you know, as a Carnatic musician. No, but jokes aside, it turns out that it was from the Department of Corrections here. And the goal from my conversations with them, what I understood was that they were trying to bring about, you know, the awareness of different cultures using different modes. So for instance, they had, you know, previously they had awareness of different cultures using food. They had awareness of different cultures using martial arts. And then they were looking at bringing awareness of, you know, sort of South Indian, South Asian cultures using music. So, and that's how they contacted me, I guess, either found my website or I don't know, talked to someone, but that's kind of how it came about. And then, you know, had again a couple of conversations with them, because as you said, that's not your normal engagement. I was like, where do you want me to present this? Who is going to be my audience? You know, just that sort of thing. Is you need to know where you're, what is the context? Because again, at the end of the day, you know, it needs to be relevant to people who are hearing it. So it was a wonderful experience. We had a lot of correctional officers who were a part of the audience, drew some parallels between, you know, just different forms of South Asian music and Indian music, and how it kind of relates to Western music and things like that. Of course, I don't claim to be no expert at all in any of these sort of branches. But what I know about my music and how it relates to these other forms of music, presenting it from that perspective, just so that there's an angle with which you can view this music. So it was a wonderful experience, very receptive, you know, just lots of questions. And I came back at the end of the day feeling a tremendous amount of respect for all of these officers who are there, you know, to rehabilitate a lot of the people who are there in our communities and things. It was a wonderful experience.
Mm-hmm. Great, yeah. So I also know you do a lot of writing. So
yes.
So tell me what you like to write, and does it relate to your musical experience?
Yes and no. So there's, you know, in my day job, I do technical. As I said, I have two loves. One is music, and then the other side of it is all my engineering and the physics and the mathematics and things like that. I like to write, period. So in my day job, I write about, you know, just engineering related stuff. But I also write a lot of articles about music. Just introducing music to people that may think that, you know, oh, classical music, it's too stuffy, it's too complicated, I don't want to know about it, you know, it's going to require too much effort, that sort of thing. But I enjoy sort of presenting just a bird's eye view of music, and sort of opening people's eyes to our music in a way that they may not have experienced it before, or just offering them a different perspective, which is my perspective. For better or for worse, it is my perspective. And so I do enjoy writing about music. I enjoy writing about technical topics in music, and again presenting it in a way which is palatable. So let's say you had 5 minutes and you just wanted to read, you know, you were in line in a grocery store. So in fact, one of the series of articles that I did was for a South Asian publication, and I had seen people just pick it up and sort of thumb through while they're waiting in line at the cash register, and be like, you know, if I had to write an article, then that article cannot be 3 pages long. It should be something which, if they're standing, you know, in line 5 minutes, they should be able to skim through it, they should be able to read through it and feel like they came back with something. So those were a set of articles that I did for a South Asian publication. I just like to write in general.
Okay, great. So what's next for you?
It's always a good question, right? What is next? I think finding interesting projects is always those are the things that sort of bring joy into my life. So every concert I try to bring something which is new, something which is different, something where I'm challenging myself, pushing myself. We live in a community where we are fortunate to be surrounded by a lot of musicians, dancers, organizations. So really next is sort of going through, and over the next couple of months I have engagements sort of lined up, and seeing what I can offer in those engagements which is different than what I have done before. So growth for me personally is quite important in my journey.
Can you give an example of a couple examples of what you're thinking?
Sure. So when we talk about growth, it's so our concerts, they have what we call the Kacheri Paddhati, and I'm using this term because it means a concert format, and this has come about from many years. Was established where you say, hey, this is the sort of composition that you would start off with, this is the next composition, this is the next one, this is the next one. So sort of bringing about variations in all of those. So one of the concerts that I think I had done was, it was playing with rhythm structures of 3 and 4s and bringing that rhythm structure into every composition that I presented. So having those sort of ideas come about, that for me is very important. So working along those same lines, which is what can I do with this? What can I present in this? How can I tweak this so that it sounds different than what I've done before, even though it's the same composition? What is it about it that's going to make it different so that somebody that's listening to it doesn't say, oh, it's the very same composition, I listened to it 6 months ago when she sang it, there's absolutely been no difference. No, there has to be a difference for the better. Mm-hmm. So working on those sort of aspects to see how you can bring about something that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I interrupted you about what's next, so I don't know if you have other things.
No, just things lined up that are coming about in terms of, I have a lot of dance projects that I work a lot with classical dancers also. Mm-hmm. So I either compose music for them, I sing for their dance performances. So we have things like that are coming up. I'm going to be performing for Raga Revival later this year. So just different things that are coming up, which you never know what any of these concerts are going to look like until they actually start falling into place, and you start thinking about it, and you say, well, what am I going to present for this one? Mm-hmm. So
yeah. So I know you also do a lot of teaching. Mm-hmm. So can you talk a bit about teaching in North Carolina, what that's like, what are you able to do here, and what you're not able to do here versus, your own experience or what right. What other experiences there.
So I think one of the biggest things about, teaching nowadays in general, and the only, one of the main reasons I started, even thinking about teaching was honestly from a selfish perspective, was because I found it made me a better vocalist. Was when there's a very big difference between your singing and trying to make someone understand how they need to sing, the same melodic phrase or the same rhythmic phrase. So a big part of that was really a selfish reason why I started teaching. It also came about in the most, inorganic way. Was I had, some children who were my daughter's age, and their mom said, would you mind teaching them, we've heard you sing. I used to practice in the apartment, and they were my next door neighbors, and they said, you practice so much, can you teach my children? And I wasn't in between jobs, and I said, sure, we can try. It came about in the most inorganic way. It is also something that I've had to sort of learn how to teach, because teaching is an art. And I always maintain that not all good performers are good teachers, and vice versa. You can have the best teachers who are not necessarily prolific performers. Of course, the combination is if you have both that are, good performers and good teachers. Teaching in North Carolina, teaching in general, I think what is different is the fact that you maybe see your students once or twice a week, because they have other, school is pressing. they have other activities that they need to go to. I'm fortunate that I have just a handful of students that learn, but they're very dedicated students who are willing to spend the time with me, to sort of to invest that time, who are willing to sort of go with me in this journey. The other thing, of course, for me is always the fact that, see, I've been very spoiled. I had access to my mother 24/7. So for me, that's always a big sort of change. It's like, oh, you don't have. But what we do is we make use of technology. So I always tell my students, if you have a doubt and you're practicing at home, and you say, something about this is not sounding right, just record a phrase and send it to me through WhatsApp or FaceTime me, and if I'm there, I'll pick it up and I'll listen to it, so that you don't continue to do the same thing until I see you next week, when I then have to make you unlearn what you have learned and then relearn something else. So in terms of that, things have changed for the better, where we can make use of technology much more frequently, and in the sense that a lot of times students don't necessarily have the time that they're willing to invest. A lot of students, here in the US, it's common to move out for college, where you stay in the dorms, things like that. So that may not necessarily facilitate, your sort of continued access with your teacher and things like that. But I think where there's a will, there's a way. You will always find, committed students that are willing to do it. The only thing is, as a teacher, you have to be, much more committed than they are, to sort of inculcate that into them.
Right. Did you ever teach your children?
I tried. It's difficult. My mother, I think, did a much better job of navigating the the teaching world versus the mothering world. My daughter actually ended up choosing to pursue Indian classical dance. So she is actually going to go to college to study dance, and she chose to, she would like to pursue Indian classical dance professionally. So she learns with her guru, who's based out of New York. So no, I was not very successful in teaching her, but my other students are like my children.
Great. Yeah. So is there anything that you want to say that I haven't asked?
No, I just want to say, thank you for this opportunity. It's been a wonderful journey for me. Music it's just my journey at the end of the day. I think each one of us has to do it for ourselves. I think we sometimes, and this has been true for me also, where I sometimes tend to get bogged down by, much as I try not to use social media and all of these things, I think it's human nature to sort of always compare yourself with other people, see what they're doing. In a way, it's good because it allows you to up your game. But I think I always have to come back and remind myself of why I do this. And that's purely because at the end of the day, even if there was nothing, there was nobody, would I still do it? Absolutely, I would do it. If it was just me and four walls, I would still do it. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts.
Well, thank you so much for sitting with us.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much.